And that's another thing I gotta get into with Will Ospreay is that Will Ospreay, in my opinion, has to be one of the worst heels in professional wrestling today. This guy manages to somehow keep like almost all aspects of his movesets as a babyface. Maybe tone back a slightly by taking out some of the big pop moves, even though he still does a lot of them. But then he just does almost the same exact thing he did before. It's the heavy breathing and the very loud yelling and always in your face and the wacky facial expressions. Like Will Ospreay almost seems like he never changed. Will Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi was our New Japan Cup 2021 finals for this show. And must I say, I thought it was a great, really good. I don't want to say in between those two because it's either great or really good. However, looking at their trilogy, starting from the first match at BOSJ 25 to the second match at G1 Climax 30 to now their last match at New Japan Cup 2021, they've basically had one match over the last 3 years. I can confidently say this was the worst one they've had so far. Now, that's not to say it was a bad match, but coming from the first match, which was all action, it was really that mesh of here's what Will Ospreay can do as a junior heavyweight and why he's one of the best wrestlers in the world, and look at all that he can do in the ring and incorporating all these different moves alongside trying to be a heavyweight. And then you have Shingo Takagi, who's really always been this big brute heavyweight, but flying at 100 miles per hour, really showing that, hey, I can go at your speed and match you, but can you match my strength? It was this nice clash of styles, and they've managed to make that clash and make it into this one beautiful artistic piece that was the first match. And there was so much love about it. Then you got to the second match, and it was basically like a toned down version of the first match. Like, it still had a lot of the storytelling and spots that you would love to see from these two, but it wasn't as fast. You know, they took it down a notch, which was fine, and I still enjoyed that match a lot. And I know some people who even say that the second match is better than the first match. I wouldn't go that far, honestly, but I know people who would say that. We get to this third match here, and I feel like they slowed it down even more. Now, it wasn't, I'm not going to act like it was an Okada level slow starter, because it was moderately paced in the very first 10 minutes. They were hitting some hard-hitting moves. They even did the elbow exchanges very early on. We saw a dive. We saw some of that stuff in the very beginning, but you couldn't help but feel like every time I watch it, I think back to how the first match was, and I'm like, this feels like we've went from Ferrari to moped speed. Which, like I said, if you want to pace it that way, that's fine. They're setting the tone. They're building up. And I'm so used to that in professional wrestling, so it didn't really bother me as much. I kept on going on with the show. You got to Act 2. Now they're incorporating some more into the match. We're seeing more flips. We're seeing Spanish flies. We even see a table spot, which was unnecessary in there. One thing that I can honestly say I did not like, which I think a lot of people might agree with me, was the incorporation of B. Priestley in this match. B. Priestley was in there to really protect Will Ospreay. You know, it's heel tactics. We see it all the time with the Bullet Club. But that's the thing, it's really a Bullet Club thing, and I want to keep it a Bullet Club thing, because Bullet Club has honestly been a far cry from what they used to be. It's really just interferences all day, every day with guys like Jay White and Evil. I would like to not see Will Ospreay fall into that. And to his credit, Will Ospreay really hasn't done too many of those cheap heel protective spots that we see the Bullet Club do. It's here and there. B. Priestley, when she's there and she's plays her role, she does it. I always think it's pretty interesting how you have Jeff Cobb and Great O'Khan like ringside, but they don't do anything. They can just kind of watch on like they're almost observing Will Ospreay style, and I very much like that. They don't get involved unless they necessarily have to, and I don't even think they got involved in this match. Maybe Priestley definitely did. So that's something you want to take into account when I talk about what happened at the very end of this match. So then you get to Act 3, which is like the last 10 minutes. Now this is the New Japan epic that everybody loves. It starts picking up a lot more. You know, we're starting to see the finishing moves happen. We're starting to see the fast sequence and hard counters. This is everything you'd want. And I thought it was a great final 10 minutes. Like I said before, I don't think it comes close to the first match, but I thoroughly enjoyed everything, and I'm not going to spoil what happens in this match in terms of the spots or anything. But ultimately, it did come down to Will Ospreay and Shingo Takagi and who was actually going to get that win. Now, I was betting on Will Ospreay to win New Japan Cup since January 2021. I just had a feeling Will Ospreay is going to get this big push, and he's actually very well may be IWGP Heavyweight and IC Champion. Now, that was back in January. As the tournament went on and he started making it further, I'm like, yeah, he's still going to win. Then Shingo ends up making it to the finals, and I never really pegged Shingo to make it into the finals. I honestly thought he was going to lose to Okada in round 1. But I'm like, you know what? Shingo and Ospreay, they're 1-1. Shingo could honestly win this match, and I would be elated because Shingo and Kota Ibushi had a great match in G1 Climax last year. That would be fine. However, if Will Ospreay wins, I would understand it. I would, I bet on him, so I'm not going to be mad at it. And I feel like it'll be a nice direction to go in with, Will Ospreay being a heel, Kota Ibushi being a face, as opposed to their last 3 or 4 matches they've had where they've both been baby faces and both tried to portray this overcoming hero, when very much so as the matches went on, Will Ospreay was definitely showing more so heelish tendencies. And that's another thing I gotta get into with Will Ospreay, is that Will Ospreay, in my opinion, has to be one of the worst heels in professional wrestling today. This guy manages to somehow keep like almost all aspects of his movesets as a babyface. Maybe tone back a slightly by taking out some of the big pop moves, even though he still does a lot of them. But then he just does almost the same exact thing he did before. It's the heavy breathing and the very loud yelling and always in your face and the wacky facial expressions. Like, Will Ospreay almost seems like he never changed as a heel, except now I like to think that Will Ospreay, it's almost like a child. You know what I mean? Will Ospreay's character is almost like a child. It's like there's no subtlety, there's no little prince and little seed growing in what he does leading into the next match or what he's doing in the present. It's always, I know this is going to make you mad, so I'm going to do it. It's that type of heel tactics. It's like it's very in your face and it gets on your nerves, but at the same time, it's like it's just very bare bone. Like, it's nothing that makes me like really hate you. It's just stuff that makes me annoyed with you. Like, Will Ospreay is an annoying heel. He's one of those heels that I just don't want to see. He's like a Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin, you could say he's great at his job because he makes you hate him, but Baron Corbin is an annoying heel. Like, I don't want to see Baron Corbin get his ass kicked. I just don't want to see Baron Corbin. Like, Will Ospreay, there are times where I just don't want to see Will Ospreay because like he's just that damn annoying at what he does in the ring, and definitely a lot of the times what he does like on the microphone. But to take things short, Will Ospreay did end up winning the match. He did end up hitting an Os cutter, getting a pin over Shingo Takagi and becoming the winner of New Japan Cup 2021, which I predicted correctly, so I ain't gonna lie, pat myself on the shoulder a little bit. So it's official, Will Ospreay will be facing Kota Ibushi for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. That will be the very first match where the championships are unified. So we're going to have, I believe, a new title belt coming at Sakura Genesis, which will be on April the 4th. Will Ospreay poses with the trophy with B. Priestley and Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb. And, it's like, okay, now they're established as a top faction. Now, they've been a faction for about a solid 4, 5, 6 months now, and now they actually have a big win under their belt, so this gets the United Empire up there. They're actually like one of the top heel factions now. This is a good thing. After the match, we get a promo from Will Ospreay. And this is where things go downhill, because Will Ospreay has just never been good on the microphone. Like, there's glimmers of Will Ospreay being good, but like 9 times out of 10, Will Ospreay he's not bad, but it's just like, why did you say that? What are you doing? You need to take more acting classes. You need to watch more movies. Like, I don't know what you need to do something else, because what you're doing is just not clicking. So Will Ospreay gets into the ring. He calls out Kota Ibushi as we expected. Kota Ibushi has both titles, which I'm surprised he didn't throw in the trash yet. But he gets into the ring, and Will Ospreay's like, I'm going to be facing you at Sakura Genesis, and I know your idea of unifying the titles, a lot of fans don't agree with it, but I agree with it because I don't care about history. And I'm like, okay, this is actually pretty good. He's saying that I don't care about the 2 IWGP World Heavyweight Championships either. That's heel stuff. That is heel stuff because fans don't want it, but Will Ospreay want it, which I never understood about Kota Ibushi wanting to unify both titles. The fans don't want it. Why would you want it? But he says, oh, I agree with you. I want to unify them, but I want them to be on my shoulders. Now, of course, it's going to be one side, but I want it to be on my shoulder. And Will Ospreay starts getting very intense. Now, Will Ospreay's intensity levels are very, very odd because it just seems like a teenager trying to make his parents mad. Will Ospreay's like, I don't care about history. I don't care about lineage, but you want to know what I do care about? I care about being number one. I care about those championships. And this. Oh my God. So, Will Ospreay then talks about how much he loves the championships, and he loves it more than anything. Now, mind you, behind him is his faction. We have B. Priestley, Great-O-Khan, and Jeff Cobb. And he's like, I love this more than anything. Already won. And he looks back at B. Priestley, and he's just looking at it, and I'm like, is he breaking up with B. Priestley? Like, is this what's happening? And then he delivers an RKO. He RKOs with Oscutter, but he RKOs B. Priestley, completely unprovoked, completely no build up to it, aside from that 3 seconds pause he has. He RKOs his girlfriend. And then Great-O-Khan and Jeff Cobb step forward in front of Ibushi to kind of like stop him, like, you know, don't help her. And I'm just sitting here like, I was legitimately like laughing my ass off because you'd expect a dastardly act like that, the crowd would boo, they would hiss, they would go all out in riots in the streets, but there was no reaction to this. Commentators didn't say nothing. The crowd didn't clap. They didn't boo. It was literally just Will Ospreay giving a cutter to his girlfriend, and he stands up and he looks at Ibushi, and it's just so awkward and so like unnecessary. Like, you're just wondering, like, why did he do I was just laughing because it's like, why? Who? It doesn't make it. And the reason why the crowd didn't clap is because there's no investment in B. Priestley. Like, yes, we see B. Priestley and Will Ospreay together for months now. We understand they're boyfriend and girlfriend. B. Priestley really doesn't talk much. B. Priestley really doesn't do a lot in their matches aside from interfere. There's no, and they haven't been together for that long. It's been like 6 months. There's no attachment between the crowd and the relationship that B. Priestley and Will Ospreay have. On top of that, Will Ospreay's already a heel, so it's kind of expected that he would do something like this, but at the same time, it's also domestic abuse that he's beating up his girlfriend. Like, yeah, he didn't hook her or anything, but he did a cutter. That's let's take into account all the Will Ospreay things that have happened in the past. Him being a rape apologist, him saying some very dastardly things on Twitter, him just being a very scummy person in general. Like, you take all this into account, and it's like him giving his girlfriend an RKO. How is this like I'm trying to understand exactly where in the universe does this make me hate Will Ospreay more? It's like, if you already didn't like Ospreay, this doesn't do much for you. And because it fell flat, it ended up just being funny. Like, it legitimately ended up just looking very funny. And if B. Priestley were not a professional wrestler, obviously it would not be funny at all because, you know. But because she is a professional wrestler, and because Will Ospreay is such an oddball on the microphone and doesn't know subtlety at all, it's a train wreck. But it's one of those train wrecks you can't look away from. And then add icing on a cake, after he gets his girlfriend an Oscutter, he and his faction leave the ring and they leave B. Priestley in the ring. Ospreay just looks at her and he walks away. And I'm like, alright. Kota Ibushi ends up helping B. Priestley to the back. So now, is B a baby face? Is B gonna go back to him? Like, is this an abusive relationship? Like, where is this heading? I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't think any of you get it. I don't know if we're supposed to get it. I don't know what there is to really get from all that happened at the very end. What I can tell you is that Shingo Takagi, Will Ospreay, I thought it was great. It was the worst match in the trilogy. I would honestly give it, well, I even go 8.5. I might give it just like an 8 out of 10. It wasn't anything overly impressive. It may not even be anything I go back to rewatch. So rewatchability always comes into play on whether I give a rating higher or not, and I probably wouldn't rewatch it back, so I would just go 8 out of 10. Going into Kota Ibushi versus Will Ospreay at Sakura Genesis 2021, I do plan to live stream that show, and I do believe that Kota Ibushi will likely retain. the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. If Will Ospreay wins, I won't be shocked, but I wouldn't be necessarily like ecstatic about it either. So it's kind of whatever to me. But what do you guys think about this entire segment? What would you guys rate this match? Comment down below. Let your boy know. I'm trying something different here where I just talk about one match and not an entire show. So comment down below. What do you think about these type of tidbits? Do you want me to do more of them in the future? Yeah, let me know. That's all I want to say. I'm about to head up out of here. I love you guys as always. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Go follow me on TikTok, Suplex, SOOPLEX. Go subscribe to me on Patreon, patreon.com/TylerMask. And go subscribe to my other YouTube channel, @TylerMask. Love you guys as always, and I will see you all later. Peace.